You guys remember a few weeks ago when I 3D printed out my own little dummy units for the Galaxy Z Fold 7 so that I could compare the general size of that upcoming device to some other devices? You probably do because a lot of you actually watched it far more than I expected. Today, we have something that I think is quite a bit better than that to look at. We have this video on a YouTube channel whose name I am going to refrain from saying simply because I think I'm probably going to get it wrong. This is a South Korean channel, and they have a Galaxy Z Fold 7 dummy, and using this dummy, we have a lot of really interesting things to quickly look at. Now, let me first give you a couple of disclaimers. Disclaimer number one, go click the link in the description and watch their full video. You should be able to use automatically generated captions if you need them to be there. You probably will because I imagine most of you watching this probably speak English. Disclaimer number two is this is a dummy unit, and there are going to be little things about it that are going to be potentially wrong. The best example of that is their dummy unit actually has a camera in the corner, and we know that that camera is actually going to be right there in the middle, and it's very likely not an under-display camera. So keep that in mind. Those two disclaimers out of the way. We're going to take our attention and turn it to a bunch of stills that I pulled out of the video. Now, a lot of this is going to be stuff that we kind of already know, but we're going to be able to visualize it in a new way, and I think that that makes this worth doing, and it makes it a kind of fun video. So here is this dummy unit Z Fold 7 next to the Z Fold 6. It is a whole heck of a lot thinner. I actually wrote this down here. We're going from 12 millimeters to 9 millimeters. Very, very impressive. Looking at the next image and paying attention to that USB-C port for a point of reference, there is basically no room at all on that USB-C port. I'll zoom in extra far with this method so that you can really see how thin that is. That's honestly thin enough that maybe it's from Surface Duo Trauma. That does actually scare me a little bit. Even looking at my Oppo Find N5, that might be less room around the C port than on that device. Wild. Now, this is, I think, a really important view for a couple of reasons. One, look at how big this Z Fold 7 screen is, but also look at how wide it is. It's not just that we're going from 6.3 inches to 6.5 inches. The aspect ratio is changing. The Fold 6 was wider than the Fold 5. The Fold 7 is even wider than that, and we are finally getting from Samsung a folding phone that looks like a normal phone experience that opens up. It does look to me like the space where the hinge is very similar, but that's really not a problem on the Fold 6. They've shrunk it down so much that I don't think that really matters. I did grab these images as well that just continue to drive home how impossibly thin this device is, but we won't linger here because you get it, it's thin. Here are the two devices, the Fold 6 and the Fold 7, opened up side by side, and yes, guys, it's a larger inner display. It is a wider inner display, and that's something that I have wanted for a long time. But while we're talking about how large that inner display is, we need to park here on the bezels just for a second because we still have not really truly ironed out exactly how big that inner screen is going to be. Is it 8 inches like Ross Young has said? Is it 8.2 inches? I believe that came from On Leaks, if I'm not mistaken. We've heard everything in between. We've heard that the bezels are going to be about half the size as they were last year. We've heard now for Panda Flash Pro that they're only a little bit smaller than they were last year. No idea what is going on here, but I will tell you this. I took this image and I blew it up, and I took my calipers and I measured them. And then I took some math and I found the percentage decrease of Fold 6 bezel to Fold 7 bezel, and then I know, because I have a Fold 6 and I can measure it, that the Fold 6 bezel is about 2 millimeters, and based on that, my guesstimate would be that the Fold 7 bezel is about 1.4 millimeters, which is different than what Panda Flash Pro said, and it's different from what Ice Universe said. So if it comes out and it's 1.4 millimeters, you heard it here first. I figured it out. I don't know, though. I don't know what the inner screen size is going to be. It's somewhere bigger than 8 inches diagonal, but also no bigger than 8.2 inches. I can't find a solid answer to this. I've even asked. This was a post from Panda Flash Pro earlier today where they said that the 7's screen protector is the exact same size as the special edition, which was 8 inches. Bezels are unnoticeably reduced by around 0.1 millimeters. Well, again, that's not what this dummy unit said. It could be wrong, okay? Hard to say. So I asked a clarifying question. Are we seeing that the talk of the bezel being reduced by almost half, resulting in an 8.2-inch screen is wrong, and we are indeed getting an 8-inch screen, as Ross Young has maintained? And this is what they said. And keep in mind, this is being translated from Chinese to English, and I think that that's partially what's to blame here, because if you read this, it just doesn't completely make sense to me. The display is exactly the same as the Z Fold 6 Special Edition, which was 8 inches. Ross is correct, but Samsung slimmed down the bezels by around 0.1 millimeters. The dummy is more than 0.1 millimeters. So from one corner to the second corner, it's exact 8.2 inches. Samsung is marketing it as 8. It can't be 8.2 if the SE was 8. Is the SE not really 8? Is it more than 8? I have no idea what is going on or what to make of this. At the end of the day, like I said, bigger than 8, 8.2 or smaller, somewhere in that range. Now, one of the devices I compared my little dummy to was the S25 Ultra, and if you go back and look at my comparison, this is absolutely spot on with what I came up with. You can see that the Fold 7 is just a little bit thicker than the S25 Ultra, but man, look at that camera bump sticking out of the bottom of that device. It looks like a submarine surfacing from the water. It is massive. But what's happening here is if you take the Fold 6, let me grab it, which doesn't have a very large camera bump at all, but you leave it like this. You leave the camera hardware basically the same, and then you make the device thinner. The cameras need the same amount of depth, and the end result is they stick out really, really far, and they're adding a 200 megapixel sensor. So it's thin, but the camera bump is not thin, it's huge. The last thing I want to quickly touch on is the thickness of these devices. So in the video, they used some calipers. Kudos for doing that. To measure this thing when it's closed, it came out to 9 millimeters. And that is kind of what we have been expecting. That's what I printed mine out at, and that's what it looks like. Great. But then they opened it up and they measured it again, and they got 4.5 millimeters. Now, you may remember, Ice Universe said it was 3.9 millimeters. OnLeaks said it was 4.5. There was that disagreement, which I actually solved. They talked it out, and then I grabbed a caliper and I measured things and tried to flesh out their conversation. So I shouldn't say I solved, but I kind of added data to this conversation. What's happening here is that no OEM, when they give you the thickness of their device, when it's open, includes the bezel. I've said this a million times now since we figured this out, but the bezel sticks up and it keeps the device from touching itself, the screen from touching the other side of the screen. So when they measure the device, they don't count that bezel. It's about half of a millimeter on the Z Fold 6. If you take the Oppo Find N5 that is marketed as 4.2 millimeters and you measure it, it's actually about 4.5 millimeters. So like you have here, they're measuring with that bezel at 4.5 millimeters. The reality is it's going to be marketed closer to 3.9, maybe 4 millimeters, something like that. Guessing 3.9 because that's what Ice Universe said. And OnLeaks actually measured his CAD renders minus the bezel and got 3.9. So this is a little bit of a misnomer. And what we have to do, we have to be very careful. They made this mistake in this video. They measured the Fold 7 dummy with the bezel included. Then they just said the reported thickness of the special edition, which is 4.9 millimeters. And that's not fair to the Fold 7 because you're giving one measurement without the bezel and one with, and that throws things off. You have to pick one or the other. I don't care which one you pick. Say which one it is and then keep it consistent and you're fine. But you can't be swapping back and forth because that's not fair. So guys, like I said, not necessarily anything that we can really hang our hat on and say this is new information that is 100% confirmed. But I think that it does do a pretty good job of visualizing what is going on with this phone and what you should be expecting. So based on that alone, I say kudos to this YouTube channel. Great job. I don't know how you got your hands on this dummy, how exactly this came about, but you did a cool thing here and you deserve all of these views. So definitely do go click that link in the description and give them more of those views. Guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.